Hey, Ash.
Hey,
How you doing? Hello.
how's it going, Dick?
Hello, listeners. Hello, listeners. I'm Dick, and that's Ash over there with the long hair and some sort of Sasquatch riding a unicorn T-shirt or something. What is that? What does
I
it say?
got this in the mountains. It actually says, I forgot what it says. It's good. It says, Blue Ridge, Georgia, because that's where I got it. And then this
Okay.
says, what does it
It
say?
says believe. Does it say believe?
Believe. It says believe.
Believe.
Believe in
Sasquatch. Is
Sasquatch.
he
You
wearing a
know,
little cowboy hat?
he's totally, yeah, man, this is good. Here, I'll get it. Zoom down here. You got to see this. I
Yeah, let me
loved this
see it.
image.
Get your
Look
hair
at that.
out of the way. I
Believe.
want to see the horse's head.
It's like I can't. Everything's mirrored in the
It is
camera.
a
You
unicorn.
say it. You saying
Yeah.
believe.
Believe Sasquatch riding a unicorn in full stallion mode.
I like that they're that playful with their shirts out there. They had some good shirts, man. We got Tristan an absolutely adorable one too. This was when we were on vacation at the end of July. We went to the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was awesome. But Sasquatch, man, I mean, people get pretty passionate about believing in Sasquatch. I think it's kind of funny that I don't know. To me, it's just not a standout like legend of question. Like even if he was real, to me, it's still not that mind blowing. I don't know. To me, he's just kind of like an ape creature. It's like, is it that crazy from us? But I had a pretty intense experience with Sasquatch in British Columbia, though.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Did you see Sasquatch in British Columbia?
well, I didn't, but I was out there helping film the movie with my dad. This is back in like 2012.
Okay.
And I was like about 3 years into doing video stuff in a more serious way. And we're out there, and we had heard. I was visiting my dad. I've only had seen him a couple of times in like the last decade, right? So I'm out there, and he hears about these people that live out in the mountains who have wild Mustangs, and they'll let you ride them if you just go up there and ask. And my dad is the kind of person that will take that opportunity. All right. So I'm like, this is not something I would
I'm
go
gonna
do.
need to ride that wild Mustang
I'm
right
like, what
now.
the hell?
No saddle, bareback, please. Yeah, thank you.
And my dad can ride a horse, so he's a little more equipped to do it than
I
me.
have seen
But
pictures of your dad. Or I've seen parts of the movie. Did he ride a horse in the movie?
I don't think he ever did get on a horse, but he did tame a horse for one of the scenes where it was acting up, and he knew how to get it to calm down, and nobody else did. So that was pretty cool.
So,
It was actually at the time it was totally annoying because we were in an argument, and then he like had to walk in and be a badass and like calm the horse and totally control the scene. I'm like, this has nothing to do with what we were arguing about, but that was pretty cool.
You're instantly not mad anymore. Like, damn, that was
Yeah.
cool.
It was kind of cool. So we go out, and you can't drive all the way up to where these people are because they're at the top of the mountain, and we park. They said it would be like roughly a mile up mountain that you have to walk. We get out, we start walking, we run into this old hippie couple, and it's a husband, wife. They see us on the road, and my dad says, we heard that we could possibly ride one of your horses. You guys have wild Mustangs out here? And they're looking at each other, and they're like, well, we haven't seen them for a couple of days. They come when they come, and we haven't, but you can come up with us, and we'll see if maybe they're back. So we walk with them. Isn't this weird as shit? I mean, I was like, this is such a weird.
Yeah. Like,
I would
hear
never
you have
pursue
wild
this.
horses, and like, yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
go jump on this giant animal that is wild. That I
And
don't.
who are these people? I mean, why are they letting us do this?
And
Why
they're
would
like,
you
they're
care?
cool. They look at each other like,
And
will you
then
sign
like,
the NDA?
yeah, like there's
Really?
nothing legal about these people, man. Like these guys, the husband and wife walk us up to their house. Their house is not a house. It is literally put together with cardboard. So it's basically homeless people.
I'm picturing the Shire for some reason.
Well, it is not. It is not. It is like there's a stream. They have a beautiful little piece of land that they've chosen to set up shop on. The house is strung together with like rope that's going from tree to tree and literally a bunch of attached cardboard panels that make walls. And they have a tarp up that's angled as a ceiling slash roof. And it's like, I mean, this is during a time of the year. It starts to get cold at night, but they just do fires and they live outside through the thicket of it. And
Is this now? This is in British Columbia, right?
this is in British Columbia. This is the real deal stuff. I mean, this
So
place
this gets,
looks like Lord of the Rings, full
yeah,
out.
I'm about to
It's
say
epic.
it gets really cold,
Really cold.
really cold in the winter. There's bears. Okay, there's not
That
like
was another story.
we're in Florida. We have black bears. There's bears up
Yeah.
there. They're not black bears. They're brown bears.
Yeah.
They're called grizzly bears, and they're really, really not something to screw around with.
Yeah. And we found, well,
And they're living
so,
in a cardboard ramshackle
unreal,
like
right?
hut place. Yeah.
Dude, they're catching fish out of the stream and they've got little canned goods and stuff. And so we just, like, she made some beans for us. Like, this is just so weird. Like, we basically just met up with some homeless people that are, I have no idea if they own
like,
this land or what they're doing.
Like you're describing like top tier homeless people. Like this is like these are the kind of homeless people that they're not homeless. The earth is their home.
Absolutely. All the way.
Like,
These are mountain people. These
yeah.
are modern day mountain people. They're actually, it started out as a draft dodging expedition. So the dude went out there. I don't know if he met her out there or if she left because he was going to get drafted. And so, you know, they're older.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the conversation at some point, Sasquatch comes up, which is not random out there in British Columbia because Sasquatch comes up in a lot of conversations.
He's a celebrity out there, right?
He pretty much is, man. And dude, they were like adamant that it wasn't a question, that they've seen him and that there's people out there that have seen him. And they talked about like this one couple that lived out there and they unfortunately had to shoot the younger one, the younger Sasquatch.
A little baby.
And they had to bury it. Yeah. Like there's this whole backstory to it. And I'm like, okay. And then my dad's like, I honestly, well, how come, you know, they're so hard to see, like people don't see them when they come up on something? It's like, well, they're dimension hoppers. And then my dad said, I'm sorry. And he said, they're dimension hoppers. And then my dad is like, we laughed, we looked at each other and laughed, and they are straight faced as fuck. And then he's like, I'm sorry, are you being serious? And he's like, yes. And I mean, he was offended that we laughed at the idea that they hop dimensions. And so it's like, that's why you can't see them because they just travel through time. It's like, wow, this went to a new level for me.
What kind of mushrooms are up in British Columbia? Are there like they got little plants or something, like little things?
I mean, look at this. This is probably what they see. Dude,
yeah,
it caught us off guard, and like we were. Oh, well, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to offend you. We're just like this is new to us, so I've never heard the concept. So how does it work? And then he started he said nobody knows how it works. It's just that's what they do. They will just walk through, so they'll just disappear like that. That's why no radar is going to pick them up.
Well, radar would pick them up when they're in this dimension.
I know there's so many, but what are we at this point? Are we going to have a logical conversation, or do we just acknowledge that we're talking to people that are a little bit off the beaten path?
At what point do you start looking for the homeless makeshift, you know, shivs?
I got a little worried. I mean,
okay, all right, I see.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah, would you kill the fish with?
Serious. And then we're like going to leave, and at this point it's nightfall, and they said, well, just be careful of the bears. And then we're like, oh, is it? That is like, yeah, there's definitely bears. We just saw one the other night, and they're like, and we didn't even have a flashlight. So we're walking back in the dark during bear time, you know, and they had just seen one the night before. So it was a really, really crazy night.
Yeah. So to bring it back, did you guys find the wild horses?
No, never saw one of them.
Never.
But they had basically even though they were wild, they had some areas where the fencing was up and you could see that there were many hoof prints there, like, you know, that they kind of come there. I don't know if they figure out how to feed them. I don't understand why the horses are there. The whole thing was bizarre to me. This was a place where, you know, the marijuana is grown next to crystals if you want the good weed. So they have a sacred way of growing the pot with crystals, and it's like, this is really good stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah? And then they're like, yeah, it was grown with a blank crystals. Yeah, like they literally rooted around crystals. And I can easily poke fun at that, but maybe there's something to it. I don't know, man. I've heard some crazy stuff with crystals. I grew up around my mom who was into tarot and readings and crystals. And
Yeah,
so I'm open-minded to these things a bit, you know, and
I,
me and
I
Amy were
know.
going down.
I
Yeah, do
know
you know
some.
some
I know
people?
some people who are like serious about their crystals, and same thing where you said like you offended him when he said he was a dimension hopper.
Yes, yes,
Like
yes.
I've made comments in front of people about crystals, and then like really got the stink eye. Like, no, you don't understand. But
I
sorry,
think, well,
continue.
there's something to the crystal thing. No, we can talk about crystals if you want to. There's something to it, man. Like everything does have an energy of some kind. I mean, like that you can physically rate, right? And so crystals do emit some kind of frequency to them. Whether that's like changes things around it or guides and energy, I just don't know. You know, there's stuff beyond me, but for sure
I believe
everything's got some kind of level of aura to it on some in some way.
we've talked about a similar side analogy to this with guitars, right? Like,
Yes,
sure,
yes,
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Like everything has an energy, and honestly, like my take on it, because I like all that kind of stuff, but I'm really kind of a grounded person in reality, in my reality. I'm not going to say in my reality. I'm just whatever the catalyst is for you that
Yeah,
makes you feel the way that you think that you should feel, great. Like if
right.
that means that you have a crystal and that crystal just makes you feel a way and you are empowered by that, that's awesome. That's, to me, like, that's great, cool, awesome. It's probably not going to be for me.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to be what empowers me, but that's, I think it's fascinating the way that people genuinely are altered by things like that, and it's because of their
Mhm.
perception of it. And then you could have
I
someone
agree.
else. Yeah.
The power of placebo is legit. And I think that you can endorse the power of placebo, you know, like you can play into that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
use it to your advantage, rather, but it obviously exists because I mean it shows itself in all kinds of studies where they do placebo, you know, versus non-placebo, and the effects that sometimes happen that don't even make sense why people reacted to the placebo, unless
Mhm.
obviously unless the thing that they're testing is just in some ways it
LSD.
almost shows that the drug, well, whether it be a particular antidepressant or a particular whatever it is that they're testing, it could
Yeah.
also just be an implication that oftentimes the placebo proves to be almost just as worthy as the people that took the medication that they're doing on a trial, which is
Mhm.
crazy, right? And it's like, well, how much of it is just that you think, you know, I will say this, there's without doubt something to, if you're trying to get better or improve something, if you think that that can actually happen versus being negative about it and deciding already that it
Oh,
will not change.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's your state of mind. That's,
Yeah.
you are what you think.
You really
And
are in a big
yeah.
way.
And if you believe, like, you believe that you can achieve something and you work for it every day and you suck in the beginning, but you firmly believe that you will. It's just that's the mind over matter, right? And
Absolutely.
it crosses over with placebos. And I was when I was young, I was like a young teenager, put on one of those antidepressants one
Oh,
time.
were
I
you?
think,
Did
yeah,
you try
yeah.
antidepressants as a teenager?
As a teenager, I did, because I was just a teenager, and
Do
the
you know
real
which one it was? Do you remember which one it was? Or no? If you
maybe
don't mind me
Zoloft.
asking. Okay.
Zoloft? I think Zoloft was
That's
one. I think
one.
that was it.
Yeah.
So, but here's like the story behind it, which is really dumb and short, and then the lead up was much better. But typical teenager, dumb teenager, not dumb, but didn't work well with others in school and didn't have the right types of teachers. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. Neil deGrasse Tyson is really good about talking about educating and making it fun. You put these kids in these environments that just suck and they're not enthusiastic, and you don't learn when you're not interested and you're not having a good time. And people learn better if they're smiling. So I wasn't smiling as a teenager, and school sucked and everything sucked, and I was in the middle. And long story short, Parents thought
You're
I had
fine. Go for it.
depression, and
Yeah.
then
Oh, okay. Your parents thought you had depression. You hadn't necessarily thought this of yourself.
yeah, no,
Okay.
it was just a teenager. It wasn't like something I didn't like go to my parents like, oh, I just everything. It was more like just I'm in this mindset that, oh, school sucks, people suck, the small friend circle I had was like that was it. And for a little while there, they were all shitheads. They were all just not
Mhm.
good kids. And then that
Mhm.
changed. Thankfully, that changed. But it was like my father was like, I don't know what to do. Like I take him, I had to go. I went to see a therapist, right? When I was young, I saw a therapist. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, we think you're depressed. We think you're depressed and you're gonna put you on the Zoloft stuff. I was like, oh, okay,
Mm.
whatever.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
don't, to this day, I'm not good with like those prescription medications for things. And I
Mhm.
remember taking it, and that's all I remember. I took a couple of them, and I remember saying, this isn't doing anything
Mhm.
to my brain. Now, granted, I was probably smoking pot. I'm sure I was smoking pot by this time, like with the neighborhood kids, and I was
Mhm.
also playing music. And between the pot, not so much, but the music really made me happy. This stuff
Mhm.
really just made me like not really care about
Mhm.
stuff. Like I just felt,
Mhm.
it felt more like I'm
That's
not
what I
depressed. I'm
hear.
not
Yeah.
depressed, but I'm not happy either, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell it because recently I actually was prescribed something similar, but this ended up a store surplus of like Zolofts, and I ended up
Mhm.
selling them to a another kid in the neighborhood who was just like looking for a good time. And I remember
Okay.
like I just ended up selling. My dad I got in a lot of trouble because I
Oh,
got
he
rid of
found
it.
out.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, what am I got you doing this for? I was like, it's just
Yeah.
stupid. Like, I'm not gonna take them anymore because they weren't altering my state of mind in any better form.
How
And
long had you been taking them? I'm
oh,
just
not that,
all
not
curious
and
now.
again, not that long. And I hear
Yeah.
that it takes a while.
Yeah.
And so flash forward, like as a grown person in my 30s, I saw a psychiatrist for a little while, like just to talk.
Mhm.
Everybody should. Like
Mhm.
stuff had happened. My father passed away and things like that. And I was like, talking to somebody, and they were like, "Well, maybe we should try you on this Wellbutrin
Mhm.
antidepressant." And I was like, now my girlfriend takes Wellbutrin and it's fantastic for her. Like she said she has a totally different person, totally different thing, but works well for her. They put me on it, and like a couple of days they told me you have to keep doing it because it regulates your serotonin levels. And I took it for like 3 days, and instantly it was the same thing. It was like
Mm.
put me in just this my personality, my way of thinking, my way of being is just up and down, kind of all over the place. And I thrive in stressful environments. I really do
Mm.
feel like I excel in stressful situations, stressful environments, and I really like high stakes, um, engagements. That's why, like
Mhm.
with martial arts and stuff, is what I like.
Mhm.
But it it made me feel just all so even keeled that it was maddening. It was just
Uh-huh.
no enthusiasm for anything. Like
Yeah.
everything's like it's cool, but it's whatever. And I was like, I don't want to live like it's cool, but it's whatever. I want to live like
Mhm.
I really, really, really like this, and I want to be hyper focused on this. But I
Mhm.
also really, really, really don't, the negative sides of personality traits. Like I really, really, really don't like this. But rather than focusing on really, really not liking this, well, okay, well, that's just not in my bubble.
Uh-huh.
I'm only going to, and that's another thing that can be an issue. And I feel like that's with people that are very creative, lots of musicians, artists, writers. They have the bubble and they live in the bubble.
Mhm.
And this has been a point of strife in my life. I feel like, because I do live in that bubble. And
Mhm.
sometimes I don't see outside of the bubble, which means, well, then you're the selfish person because you're only living in your bubble and no one else's bubble is visible and no one else is there. And that's like the over not the overthinker, but like the workaholic is like that, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely one of those. I think you can relate. Like, it's like
Yeah, I'm
you get
definitely
in
a
that, you
workaholic.
get in that bubble, but I can break out of that bubble on my own through
Uh-huh.
mental awareness, right? And the
Mhm.
medication, I feel like it just popped the bubble
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
okay, now I'm not, now I don't really want to do anything. And that
Mhm.
scared me more than anything. And I just stopped. I just
Mhm.
stopped. There's still a half a bottle of Wellbutrin somewhere in the house because I was like,
Bro,
I'm
hook
not,
me up.
would you like to get some? I can hook you up with some of this
No,
for
but
your,
I know a kid down the street who would love to.
I
Just
still know
kidding.
that. I still know that guy, and he's not doing so good these days. It's not,
Oh,
I wasn't encouraging it, but yeah.
well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I haven't ever personally tried it, but I've grown up around antidepressants my whole life, because people around me have taken them, and I don't really have a negative thing to say about it. For some people, they do need it. I get a little when it comes to kids and child, development and all that, and just everything, trying to learn, trying to figure out and map the world and how it operates and what your identity is, and all that kind of stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not against kids taking it, but for instance, even in your story, it sounds like they went immediately to that before trying out some other things first and just exploring a bit more. I mean, even just the therapy itself, even without doing anything different with sleep, nutrition, activity levels, all that kind of stuff could have been discussed. And it seems like after the first session, they immediately went to that. Is that right? Or
Yeah,
am I?
yeah. Well, and I don't blame my parents at all
No,
because,
and I'm not.
you know,
But the
yeah,
um
but
the
yeah, the person, I can't remember. It was somewhere in Tallahassee. I can't remember
yeah,
the
and you don't have
name.
to say names or anything, but
Yeah, well,
but is
but
that right, or was it a single session within that first visit
I
that
feel
after
like,
one
yeah, like,
assessment?
you go in and they say, yeah, well, we got just the thing. We're gonna
Uh
try
huh.
this, try this. Let us know, you know, do this. Let us know how you feel, this and
Yeah.
that. And really, all it was, kids are kids are all unique. And when
Mm.
you and I both have teenagers, and you know, I have two kids in my household. One of them is extremely intelligent. She is dual enrollment. She's just
The other
smart.
one,
The other
not so
one,
much.
the other one, just not. And it's unfair to compare them. That's the thing. You don't compare your kids. It's
Right.
different.
Yeah.
It's different. And it's like everyone's unique and everyone needs to be addressed in a certain way. And that's like
Yeah.
with education. You have to find I really hated teachers when I was young, right? And there's again, bring it back to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said, think about how many educators in your life can you say really, really impacted your life in a profound way, where you say this teacher changed my life for the better. Like, and he said, I guarantee it's less than, like, people who went through college say, I guarantee it's less than five. Yeah, I have one and a
I
half.
got one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I didn't graduate past the seventh grade.
Okay.
That was, my journey was, kicked out because that was that time where I stopped caring about, because it wasn't working for me. And, my story is whatever it is, but it just didn't work for me. And then I stopped caring and then I just left. I just
Uh-huh.
fell asleep in class one day in ISS. And next time I woke up, I was expelled. And then
Hmm.
it was like, and then when I went back to get my GED, it was that teacher who also happened to be a music teacher in Wakulla. I will say her name was Miss
How did
Snow.
how did I not realize? Wait, you got your GED too. So you went through seventh grade, or you
Yeah.
were in seventh grade.
In seventh grade, I had issues. Seventh grade was when I started skipping
Mm-hmm.
school
Mm-hmm.
for long periods of time. I remember the first class I skipped was the last day of school in the sixth grade. I skipped with a kid named Greg Shimwell. We skipped the last period and we just walked around the school halls like, this is too easy. Nobody's even out here. Nobody even knows.
Mm-hmm.
Just giggling. So then seventh grade, I wasn't paired up with Greg in a class. And then I found out that I could walk out to the bus stop, The old man would go to his job at the state, and I could just walk away from the bus stop and I wouldn't be there. And then I could walk over to a little buddy's house in the neighborhood who folks in there just didn't care and hang out and smoke grass and do whatever. And that was, I would skip for weeks on end. I started getting zeros on my report card, eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had
Mm-hmm.
to go to summer school in seventh, went to summer school, barely passed. Eighth grade happened. And then in eighth grade, it was, I can't remember what put me in the disciplinary class. The school had like the suspension, but then they also had this other class that didn't have grades in it. It was just the disciplinary class. And it was sixth, seventh, it was middle school. So it was sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. I was in eighth
Mm-hmm.
grade and I was in that class. And it was like I did something, I can't remember what it was now, but I did something bad enough that I got expelled and they sent me to the disciplinary school. And so then once I was in the school, that's when I fell asleep in ISS. Then I woke up and I was expelled from that. Then it was like, and I was like 15 or 16. So 16, I was old enough to drop out. That was what I remember. And so then I spent like a summer abroad. I spent, when I was 16, I spent a year back in, or a summer back in Oregon at my brother's house in Oregon City, just doing whatever. And then came back and I remember my dad said, if you get your GED, I'll buy you a Corvette. And I was like, oh, right
Did
on.
you get a Corvette?
Hell
Okay,
no,
yeah.
I got a 88 Ford Ranger.
Okay.
Not for my GED. That was just my first vehicle, but
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
but yeah, I went back and I went and did the GED and got engaged in it because of the teacher who was a music teacher. And
Mm.
she was very engaging and she like really encouraged me. And she asked me if I could come help her on the off days, tutor the adult class. Cause there were
Huh.
adults. They were like grown 30, 40, 50-year-old people in there
Wow.
who didn't have an education, who were in there trying to learn. She asked me to come help tutor them. And I did sometimes. It was like before or after the class. I can't remember, but it was really nice to work with a teacher. And it was a lot more one-on-one, a very small class, one teacher, wasn't jumping around. So like
Yeah.
I never got the high school experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was
Interesting.
what I missed out on. But instead I got the join a band at 17 and move to another state with your buddy
Yeah.
and go, live rough in North Carolina for a couple of years is what I got.
Yeah.
But
Dude, that's
yeah.
so fun. I didn't realize because I mean, I have a different story, but the similarity is that, I made it through 10th grade, and then I dropped out and then did life for about a year, year and a half, and then went back and got my GED.
Hmm.
And when I basically kind of got more through ninth grade, even though I got through 10th grade, at 10th grade, I had switched from Godby over to Lively's High School Academy, which is a self-paced program. And it really, I literally, there were two separate days in the entire school year that I went there of 10th grade where the teacher got up and taught a lesson. That was
Oh,
it. It
really?
was completely reading out of a textbook, and I literally
Oh,
just did nothing. I mean,
like a
I've
packet?
never.
You like a
It was
work
just the
packet or something?
textbook, and you
Oh,
for each class, and you open it up, and you go to the questions, you read the module, and I
nightmare.
didn't. And that was the year that I also started living on my own. I think that was that was right when I started. No, that's right. I had actually my dad still owned the gym, and I was working at Rampage Muscle and Fitness. So basically, at 16, I had dropped out and I was working, just doing work, and
Mhm.
I was like, I'm going to learn how to run this business because at the time, technically, my dad had given me a 10% ownership of the business itself. But I didn't know anything about
That
anything, I mean,
yeah,
it's not like I was
yeah,
making any money from that.
that doesn't mean anything. 10% of what? Your gym? Psh,
I mean, it was like, but I mean, when I say it doesn't mean anything, I'd got no money for that. I was literally just working there as an employee. And
mhm,
then I won't go into the full story of the demise of the gym, but long story short, it stopped. And that's when
mhm.
I went back and I finished getting my GED. I didn't end up doing a class for the GED. I just, you know, I went and gave it a shot, and amazingly, to my own surprise, passed it because I wasn't academically. I was always drawing in class. I mean, literally, I was planning to be an artist. You know, that was the thing I liked doing. I wasn't into guitar yet. I wasn't into anything else yet. Only video games and drawing and watching movies. And anyway, I went back and I got the GED. But then after I did that, about a year later, after the gym had failed, my dad ended up in jail. Long story. We'll talk about it in another podcast. I was living on my own at the age of 16, because all that happened in that same year. And me and a couple of buddies, my roommate who unfortunately passed away half a year ago, now, or not even, um, we all just rented out my mom's place. She moved out. She rented an apartment with my stepdad, who at the time there was no way I was going to live with this guy. This is what instigated me living on my own at 16, but
Yeah.
she was having a baby with him. So it was really complex. And that baby is now my half brother,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, anyway, long story short, yeah, I dropped out, did all that, and then I went back to Lively for graphic design class, and I graduated from that with my graphic design certificate. That got me into software and computers to begin with because I wasn't into that at all. And then that eventually turned into me trying video, and then the rest is history. I did video and music and all that. But I will say this. You said going and doing all that when you were 16, 17, living in the world, moving out.
Yeah.
Similar. I stayed here, but it was the life experiences that I had during that year and a half gap of growing up, and we did camping, and we went to rock concerts, and I drove around across, state lines, and we went on adventures, and we
Yeah.
did have parties and stuff like that. And I grew up so much, and I was on my own. I had to come up with my own money. I started doing a bunch of different random jobs. I mean, the amount of growth that I had in that was like where I decided I was gonna, officially pursue music with my life. I was way deep in the kung fu. All that was all in that same time after,
Yeah.
not to endorse dropping out, but for me, like that's where it really came together for me. And it's
Well,
funny to see where we ended up landing later in life with successful careers,
yeah,
being
and
high school dropouts. I didn't know you
there's
were such a dropout like me.
yeah, totally,
Thought I was
man.
on a hill over here.
Totally. I had a guy ask me one time. He's like, "Man, I'm really impressed that you what did he say?" I told him I didn't go to high school or whatever. He was like, "I'm just
Yeah.
really impressed that you speak as well as you do."
You can talk
I
and
was like,
everything.
"What?" Yeah, I know the English language. Where I learned that at home. I didn't, I don't know, but it's every kid is unique, and there's no kid that's a lost cause, man. It's
Yeah.
like the teacher. One of the things that happened, I was following a punk ass kid who I was buddies with in the school, and he scratched. We were in line walking in front of the school, and the kid, he pulled his key out, and he scratched the teacher's car in the hood, scratched the car. And I thought it was so hilarious. I pulled my key out and I scratched it too.
Oh,
And then
no.
he did the next one. And then I did. And so I got caught. He didn't. I did. They saw me.
Damn.
One teacher's car out of like a line of cars.
Yeah.
And then like so it was like, what'd you do that for? And like, well, I'm not gonna say because Dipstick did it.
Right.
I did it. I was just like, I don't know. It was like I'm bored. Like
Yeah.
I think I was in the disciplinary class. This might have been what got me expelled from the school. I did so many stupid things. But anyway, it was like they had proof that I had did one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were others and other teachers' cars. And I feel so bad about this, but it's like it was a moment of stupidity, like a 14-year-old kid being absolutely dumb, just as dumber than dumb and ignorant. Not just dumb, but ignorant. That was the most important thing. I was just totally ignorant to like the cause and effect, right? Very detached from reality, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in trouble, and my dad got notified, and he had to pay for the teacher's hood. Miss Webster was her name. Super nice lady, nicest teacher in McCullough Middle School, man.
Damn.
And she got her car paid for. It was like $1,000 to pay for the hood. But other teachers had theirs scratched too. I didn't even do all of them. The other dummy, did like 6, 8 cars. and I got threatened by one. It was one of the PE coaches, a guy with like a crew cut, was like threatening me, like, I know you scratched my truck. I'm gonna,
Oh,
like I'm like
man.
threatening
You're
about this
like
grown
taking the
man.
rap for all
Yeah.
this.
And I'm just like, I don't even know. Like, I was like, dude, these people are really mad. I guess paint jobs on cars are a big deal. Like, I don't have a car. Like, I just didn't know. And
Yeah.
but that was one of the dumbest things I did. And then
Yeah.
that's that catalyst. But that's again, I don't kids aren't a lost cause, even though they just do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And don't there's a deep metaphor in there. A lot of kids get their backs turned on in situations, and there's things that happen like that that put kids in bad situations, and I was I was a felon when I was a minor, and luckily I got it taken care of and didn't get in trouble again, and it's off my record. I actually had a background check done for work for one of our projects. I have to have
Right.
it's called CUI. It's controlled unclassified information, which means technically you're allowed to know about it, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you don't know anything about it. Like
Right.
legally you're allowed to know, but you're not going to know because we're not going to let you know. But that kind of thing, I had to have a badge made and the background check to be out there and stuff. And it's like that. None of that would have been able to happen if I had the record, but
Right.
yeah, kind of got in the weeds there a little bit, but
Well, I mean, you really turn things around. I mean, look at all you've accomplished and everything you have going for you now. I mean, it's pretty amazing. There's a lot
well,
of people that have
same
completed.
same as you, not to flip the coin back around on you, but
Yeah.
another kid out of the school system, went back, get the GED. What are you going to do different in that you started ground up? You're doing well for yourself, and you're doing it with a business that it's just you. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Asheville and Chamier Rough Cut Productions.
Right.
And
Right.
that's impressive. I mean, that's like that, I think, is in a nutshell what the American dream is, right? Like
Yeah. I
everyone has
think
an
so.
equal opportunity. Everybody
Yeah.
has an equal opportunity to make something if you have the determination and the
Yeah.
mindset to do it. And you
That's
can
the
if you
thing.
think you can.
Well, and it's been right. You really can. I mean, it's like I want to endorse people to pursue their dreams, but I won't lie in that you really have to pick out something that you're passionate about to pull it off, because what it takes to like put together your own business and go through all the years that can oftentimes be associated with not really making a profit and just
Yeah.
barely surviving and risking, like, you don't have a guaranteed paycheck coming in, yet you're still supporting a family, figuring out how to scramble to get other work along the way, and simultaneously trying to build up the skill set to be able to justify raising prices so you can then finally make a profit, right? It
Yeah.
is scary, and I recommend everyone that wants to do it to go for it, but pick out something that you really, really are passionate about. Video, I love. I mean, I'm absolutely passionate about trying to get, and have been passionate about trying to get better at it. Still am,
Mm-hmm.
and it does feel great to finally be to this point, but do not go under the illusion that it happens easy, because it's like, even still, like, I mean, I've been doing 7-hour work days for like almost a year straight this last year. It's been the most successful year I've ever had, but that's what it requires, because you don't get the luxury of choosing just the amount of work that you want to take on. If you do,
Yeah.
that's where you kind of end up with this pocket of work because something cancels or something comes up. And dude, this last 2 months has been the perfect example of that for me. I had finally nest egged like a good solid amount up. I was about to start taking off some more time, being a little bit more of an artist regularly as part of my normal work week. And I've easily gotten set back about 2 months with all the financial things that have come up in the last 2 months that have totally additional financial responsibilities. The trees falling on the office being one of them, and it's just like, boom, in 2 months, I just had to spend so much money that now I need to go ahead and pocket in some other work. And now I'm going to be really busy again, for a section. And it's tough, but that's what I've elected to do by having my own business. There's pros and cons to
Well,
it. And it's like,
that's the phrase rolling with the punches, right?
yes, absolutely.
That's a lesson that it's hard to teach kids, right?
Yeah.
You have to find pockets of opportunity to teach that as a parent. And I I'll go ahead and say it. I can come across as cold sometimes or an asshole sometimes. Not that I'm being mean, but what I do with my kids, both of them, my stepdaughter and my son, is I truly feel that when there's an opportunity for them to learn to overcome something that's in their way, rather than being the parent that makes sure you know, I got everything for you. I'll never let anything, be tough or difficult. Like I got this. I'm like something happens. Oh, don't worry. I give you this or whatever.
Right.
It's like, no, there's a extremely valuable opportunity to learn some really good, especially rolling with the punches. Things don't go
Mhm.
your way. It gets tough. It gets difficult. It's going to have to get done either way. And
Mhm.
you got to figure it out. I got your back, of course, as a parent. Of course, I'm not going to let you fail, but I'm not going to carry you because one day, that's what my dad told me. Like one day, and he wasn't lying. One day, I'm not
Mhm.
going to be there. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be there to come pick you up off the side of the road. You're going to have to figure it out. You have to learn,
Yeah.
pick it up and go with it. And that that lesson, and you're still doing it. We're both of us still. Everybody does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, it's human. It's a very human thing to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a never-ending pursuit of figuring out how to conquer and handle and manage each
Mm.
additional new element that's thrown at you, and nobody can do it for you. Like, even if
Yeah.
like the only way you can do it, and that's, a lot of people that excel at whatever job they're pursuing, it's people that it's a good skill to be acknowledged that you're working on is being resourceful. You know, yeah,
Yes.
this doesn't fit your job description. This isn't something you do necessarily for this job, but how could you make this work overall for the business that you're doing something for? Because it's funny,
Mhm.
like, even though I'm doing videos now, like I did window cleaning and stagehand work and yard stuff and telemarketing. I was a telemarketer a couple of different times, right?
You've told me that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I did a lot of stuff, and I will tell you, all of it adds up to make me the video person that I am now. Like the skill set that I try to bring to the table for a client, from the marketing and from the general planning, the content, the concept creation that we implement, and then just the communication ability to talk to the client, to understand what their business is, to help try and cultivate the things that stand out to me as somebody that's learning about the business that I think viewers would want to know about, and be able to then communicate that back to the client that I'm trying to develop. All that is like, all that's still actually at the end of the day, it's still related to window cleaning. Because like with window cleaning, that gave me the discipline to get my ass up super early when I needed to. I had to like abide by this crazy schedule. I had to deal with a lot of physical uncomfortableness with the cold and sticking your hand in a cold bucket of water. And you had to, and it's also communicating with people in their homes and understanding how to respect people when you go into their place, their space, respecting their items, and how, like, and putting things back. When I go in with video, I know how to respect the home. I know how to respect the person's space. I know when I move something, I got to move it back. And like, I mean, it's all those little elements of discipline that you learn along the way. And every single thing that you do in your life is like it's adding like another understanding level of understanding to your whole, potential that you can bring to whatever it is that you end up landing in that you love. And
Yeah.
maybe that becomes your career path. But I didn't
It's
know the video was going to be mine for a long time.
Well, it's like it's experience turned to wisdom. You're
Yeah.
gathering knowledge along the way. Like you talk about, you learned to to be respectful and mindful of people's belongings, doing work inside their house, and that
Mhm.
translates to how you conduct yourself around people in their environment. If you're doing like whatever job you're doing, current job,
Mhm.
you're doing videography in someone's home, and then you have that experience. You've been in there before, and it carries over.
Mhm.
And those types of lessons that people can keep and integrate into their persona, into
Mhm.
who you are as a person. It was like when I learned how to, not be late for work. I lived by myself and I go to work every day, right? When I was a teenager in North Carolina, early 20s maybe. And then all of a sudden I had a buddy who was in my band. I had to pick him up for work. Something happened and I ended up picking him up. Well, then I started being late. And the people that I worked for, the framing crew, like picked up on that. And a buddy of mine was like, you weren't ever late till you started picking Who's It up. I was like, yeah, I know. Sometimes he's not ready in the morning. Like, I need to get to his house earlier and beat on the door or whatever. But we were late two or 3 days in a row. And like the third day or whatever, my boss came to my truck before we got out of the truck. He said, hey, boys, he said, let me tell you something. Do this for me. Y'all go ahead. He said, y'all go ahead and go on back to the house. He said, yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. Y'all go on back to the house. Do whatever it is you need to do to get here on work on time tomorrow. Okay. And I was like, I just got denied my day's wage. One day, I remember I was making like $9 an hour in like 2003
Sure.
for this man named Mark. And it was like, that hurts, man.
Yeah.
That hurts. And it wasn't. And I looked over at my buddy in the truck, like it was
This
like
is your fault, buddy.
but it never said, it didn't have to say anything.
Right,
It was
right.
like one of those things. I blame myself just as much as anything else because there were things I could have done. And then from then on, okay, yeah, things changed. Got better. And it carried with me. But notoriously, I'm not a very punctual person in the morning. Like I'm definitely more the show up 5 or 10 minutes late and then stay 2 hours later. That's just that, it's like, that's just who I am. It's
like you're a musician or something.
Yeah, something like that. But you carry that stuff with you.
Yeah.
But where I was trying to go with that is there's some people out there, unfortunately, who like reset every day. And a lot of these people, I've worked with some unfortunate people like that do things in life they shouldn't do. And I've worked with like there's one guy in particular, one of the hardest working men I've ever known. I called him Chuck Norris because he looked like a little Chuck Norris, red face, Irish guy, severe alcohol. He was homeless when we started doing one of the projects, Tallahassee, and he was living in a tent behind a radiator shop. And I got a job with a general contractor, and they hired him as a day laborer to be my helper. And what I was doing when I started was I was cutting dunnage for unloading semi trucks of material. That was my job. I was like the material manager. We had 3 4-story wood frame apartment buildings that were going up at the same time. And the deal with the lumber was we took it all in one fell swoop. So for like a month and a half, every day, all I did was unload trucks and organize and store all the material. 2x4s, 2x6s, plywood, all the wood coming off the truck. I had a manifest. I had to get, and that was just my job. And Chuck Norris was my helper. They hired him to be my helper. So we had to cut dunnage for like days. I had a chop saw set up and he was set behind me. And the dude was the hardest working guy I've ever known. Just would show up, work, go home. And then the next day he would drink, like overnight, he would drink himself into a coma and he'd wake up the next day, totally reset, start from scratch. You got to teach him again. Now the guy's great. I mean, he's a really great guy. I hope he's doing well. He ended up, it was a kind of a success story. He was homeless. We started working with us, got a steady job, was showing up to work every day, ended up moving back in with his sister, got his truck back, kind of like started in a tent. And then he's like driving his own truck to work, doing better. But that tick, that alcohol, that was his vice. And it never would let him go. I haven't seen him in a while. He's still in Tallahassee. He was working, but he just reset every day. And it was like, you got to retrain him. The whole, everything that went through the next day, like you just got to reset. And there's people out there who do that. And I feel bad for those kind of people. I really do. And like that's just it's a tough thing to fix, right? It's like,
It's
you
super
don't fix
tough.
it. They
You
do.
that is the hardest thing about I'm extremely compassionate, but I got to be trying to help somebody that wants to help themselves, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
that's
that's tough cuz not everyone does, you know. Like some people, and that goes back to that placebo effect to some extent. Like you have to have some I'm really big on having a visualization of some goal that you're shooting for. You have to spend a little time being able to see it, because if you can't even imagine it, then it's the chances of you arriving at it are so slim. It's already a very, very hard road to walk, to really pull yourself out of a hole. And it's
yeah.
even harder to pull yourself out if there's many people in the situation that just don't have any help. They don't have somebody else that can spot them a little bit of money. Or imagine, I mean, for somebody that is homeless, one of the biggest challenges is even just being able to have the hygiene that you would need to get a job, right? Like you can't, you need access to a shower and clean clothes to be able to arrive to work at a lot of places. And
Yeah.
just that is the feat, on top of getting there. So it's so hard to come from zero to something. It's so much, even if it's a hard road, if you have something to work off of as a base, it's so much more accessible and achievable. And especially, this is something that comes with family, like it can be harder, I think, to pull yourself out of that stuff if you are 100% physically alone, having to live up to the responsibility of people that are leaning on you for support, like a little family, even if it's
Mhm.
just having a girlfriend or something. It's a big deal. It's like this. It's like in all the movies where the toughest of tough guys, that's like, man, I don't care, do anything to me. It's like, yeah, but we're gonna hurt your kid. And then it's like, well, you can't do that. Then they'll do whatever the bad guy wants them to do, right? And it's
Yeah.
like that same thing can be the thing that pulls you out of even just the motivation that you need to keep the job or pursue some better job that gives some opportunity, or
Yeah.
bite the bullet and go do something that sounds scary to try and embark on.
Yeah, it's like that. I think everybody, no matter who you are, there's a little negative space in your head, little negatives part of your brain that is like a self-destruct button.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different for everybody. Sometimes there's a little guy in there and he's pressing that button nonstop, self-destruct, self-destruct, self-destruct. And it's easy and it's okay to self-destruct to the person doing it. Like, and I've been in phases of my life where it was like that, like
Mm-hmm.
total self-destruction, like no regard for my own well-being. And this is like people live like this, no regard for their own well-being. Just every day is that same kind of path, and it gets bad. Like for some people, it
Mm-hmm.
gets very bad. But that self-destruct button's easy. But when it's, destruct family, destruct kids, destruct loved ones, that button isn't as easy to press. So then it's like, well, I'm okay hitting the self-destruct button because it's just me and I don't care.
Right.
But then there's this morality that sets in when you're hurt. If you hurt someone that you care about,
Yeah.
you're not going to do that. Where
Yeah.
that's where, okay, there's still good in this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's still something in there that's not self-destructing. So why is this self-destruct button? And I feel like this is like a crossroad that a lot of people hit and they don't realize, and then it gets
Mm.
really bad. That's when you see like famous people that are doing great that end up committing suicide, like Chester Bennington or Chris Cornell,
Mm-hmm.
that just on top of the world. And like, but there's just something in that self-destruct is just nonstop. And it's like this weird thing where that's the scary part that, I feel like, to go back like to the therapy thing, like parent, oh no, I don't want my kid to feel this way. I need to have him talk to somebody. And it is, you should talk, but
Mm.
you should vet who your kid's talking to or who you
Mm.
talk to or whatever, vet who they are, because it, America is full of drug dealers. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the term that I use for most of it, because it's too easy for someone to go talk to somebody and they say, yeah, we got just the thing for you. You're gonna love
Yeah.
it. You're going to take, like, this is acetaminophen for arthritis. I like these because it makes me not hurt so much. But they'll say, "Oh, we got this for you. You know, take one of these every day. It's for this and this and this." And then, but then it also, like, does it? Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not giving anybody advice. Like,
Yeah,
but it's like vet what it is, vet who you are, and talk to the right people. Like, if they just throw something at you without asking you, like, what's how you feel, like, without having multiple I feel like a therapist, again, I'm not a medical professional, but my opinion is a therapist should really have several deep conversations with you and really, really get in and understand what's going on before they start trying to give you anything. Before you give the kid Zoloft because he's sad because he doesn't have any friends, and the friends he does have are shitheads, you know, we'll talk to the kid and learn, you know, where were you at 3 years ago? What's happened? You know, what's some of the serious life, you know, just the big questions that I don't know to ask, but I'm sure good therapists do.
Yeah, and in doing that, as a therapist, be able to offer some pragmatic solutions to test and try in those given situations that the child discusses with you. And I know that that does happen, but I think that in your example and other examples I've heard from many people, it sounds like after session one, it closes with a prescription,
You're going to be
and
fine,
then
kid.
we're going to start working on this stuff, even if there's follow-up sessions. But shouldn't there be a few sessions? If it was my child, I would want a few sessions before we arrive at the point of trying that. Not that I'm against trying it, but let's at least get there. Let's see. Let my child talk to somebody else that's potentially qualified, and let them have a whole other. There is absolutely something about how impressionable a young kid is to somebody that they don't know. You know, it's harder if you're the direct parent sometimes for them to take good advice.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're given you might be a parent that's giving bad advice, and all the more reason they need a therapist. But even if you're offering good advice, it can be hard for your child to take because are you living that example at all times that they feel like you've got your life well enough together that you're somebody to listen to. There's an illusion that happens even as an impressionable young teenager that would talk to people that are apparently qualified in whatever field it is, that you think, wow, this person knows everything about it, whatever the subject is. And
Yeah.
it's like you're just that impressionable as a kid, but you're not around as the child, you're not around that person all the time to see all the pitfalls in what they're talking about or the
Mhm.
argument to the other side. So you can be extremely impressionable to somebody offering good advice and take it and try it if it's somebody that's not your parent. You know, so it's like you have a real shot here when you try the therapy route. For if you have the right therapist, there's a high probability that they will implement what that therapist recommends to try. That's a pragmatic solution to certain situations. And
Mhm.
in doing that, they might arrive at some level of like control and confidence where maybe, all right, let's still wait a little bit longer before we would resort to trying something that's going to be, we just don't know the official 100% long-term effects of taking any prescription in particular, while you're at a young age developing and all the chemistry of your body's coming together. It's just like, this should just be not the first step, but maybe step 4 or 5 after some other things have been explored and
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's like, I'm not against it. I just think that it is too fast of a flow of events to go immediately to
Yeah. And
medication.
with kids, I feel like with kids, to have success with them, finding what they enjoy and what they excel at, and having that reward system of them accomplishing, like, there was it's so fun watching the kids grow up, find out what they're good at, you know, like
Hmm.
what they
Hmm.
gravitate towards and what comes natural. Like, I had a bad phase with you know, raising kids, and, like, okay, there's subjects in school, there's 5 or whatever, and they got to pass all of them. And it was like my kid just wasn't doing good in
Hmm.
in one specific one. It was math, right? And it's like just really not getting it. And my mom actually, it was like one of those profound, simple answers that she gave me, where it was like, to me, it was like this huge deal. Like, it's not getting it. Like, man, is there, start thinking the worst thing, is it a learning deficiency or something? Like, what's going on? And then my mom was just like, not everybody's good at math. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. And I
Yeah.
was like, it was like brought like all that like super negative, like super parenting negativity was just like gone. Like, she's
Good.
right. You know what? It
Good.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, you know what? And then it was like, then the pressure was gone. It was like, okay, there's no
Yeah.
pressure. Yeah, sure. Do your best. I don't care. Like, not that I don't care, but it's like you you're good at something, and not everybody's good at math. I sure am not.
Right. Right. I think the
But
effort level is reigns king. As long as there's effort in whatever it is, you'll arrive at what you're able to excel at, and what you just
yeah,
maybe don't. And again, this is coming from two high school
two high
dropouts,
school
but
drop.
that's the kind of the thing, and this is one of the issues that I have with prescriptions with kids and Adderall or Ritalin out of the gate, is that
Oh
does
man,
the child have stuff that where they get interested in and totally glued in, you can't pull them away from it? Is there any activities that they do that is that? Because if
other
that
than
is
video,
the case, well, other than just direct video gameplay, right? Like whether it's drawing or building things outside, or it's sports, or whatever, really, it could be anything, that it could be kind of anything to some extent that they're glued in. In my opinion, if they are locked in and they're like learning all about that thing and they're getting better and better at it and they love doing it and it's hard to get them to stop doing that, so they'll focus on their schoolwork. To me, it's an indicator that they don't have attention deficit disorder. It's just that they're not able to find enough interest in this thing that you're being forced to have to learn about, that
because
is functional in
fun.
a lot. It's
It's not.
not the fun thing, but for some people they do excel. Like some people are great with, whether it be English or math or, or history,
Mhm.
these subjects. But like you said, there's five, right? And it's like that model, I think, is going to change over the next like 20, 30 years, as more and more schooling opportunities and trade learning opportunities have become more available via the internet and the different teaching models that are available. I think it's going to become a lot more in a direction where you can focus in on the things that you want to potentially explore a career in earlier, rather than
Yeah.
having to wait till you're 18 to start that path. Because if the interest is already there's so many things that you'll learn along the way. For instance, if Kyron was interested in carpentry and building and architecture and stuff, if he had the opportunity to focus on, if that was something he was interested in, I don't know. But if he was, and he worked on that multiple days a week, every day that was normal school time, he's going to learn a lot of math along the way, right? And it's applicable to the
Practical
very
math.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Practical math. And that it gives it something very tangible to use. And I don't
Yeah.
think, that's it. Like I say, everybody's different. That's where
Everybody's different.
that's it. Some people have an easy time doing math in their head. They can visualize the numbers. I
Put a
can't.
dollar sign in front of it and I'll tell you any number, brother.
Put it on a tape measure. Put it into a fraction form where I can't see it, but I'll let you know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there is something weird. If I can connect it to real tangible things, it helps me a lot. Unless it's just a complete creative thing, and then I like going off the rails with that. But you know what? We went from talking about our belief in our dimension hopping Sasquatch in British Columbia to becoming motivational speakers that are high school dropouts to to
That was
telling therapists how they should do their job. I think
the
we've
fun art.
covered a lot of ground in informing people everything they need to know about how to be a parent to their child. And
Just
yeah,
listen to this episode, you'll be fine.
all the information's there, folks, coming from the masters themselves, Ash and Dick from Cue the Muses. Don't listen to anything we said. Just watch our funny, silly show, and we love you.
Yeah. Look, here's a cool shot Preston Hooks took. He made this collage.
That's awesome. That's great.
Not my whole band, just me.
Just the important parts.
And my kid and John Hoganson. We need to get John on the podcast.
Yeah.
He'll be so hard to get on here. He's such an old man. He when he looks at his telephone, when he pulls his phone out and does the Facebook, he's like,
the Facebook. Does he also do the pot? Does he smoke the pot?
Lots and lots of the pot. Lots and lots.
Well,
I can't say he does.
We'll get him on at some point. And let's go ahead and end this bad boy. Guys, it is great hanging out with you. We're not hanging out with you. Great conversation, Dick. Thanks for you guys for listening. By all means, mention in the comments if there's anything that you'd like us to bring up, if you want any updates about Q the Muses. If you think that we shouldn't talk so much about
such deep
certain things, let us know. At least start the conversation.
I'll tell you what, if you don't start suggesting things in the comments, you're going to get more episodes like this where we just get in the weeds on all sorts of weird shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you guys next week on the Q the Muse podcast, maybe with a guest.
The MuseCast.
Wrangle
I forgot to mention one last thing. This kind of sucks. It can be hard. We are called the MuseCast, but it's hard to find us on YouTube. And if you type in the MuseCast, because there's another podcast called the MuseCast.
No way.
Yeah, it's like I think, I don't know. It's not like our podcast, but it is one, and I think they've been around a little longer and they have more subscribers than us. So it's going to be hard for us to cut through the noise.
Dear imposter MuseCast.
Get off of YouTube now.
Have you seen that video online with the cat? It's called the Bat Cat. And he's got a little Batman mask. He's like, meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.
I haven't. We are, wow. You want to talk about going in the weeds? We really have gone into the weeds now. Goodbye, guys.
You guys.